Welcome to the Parenting on the Spectrum show with board-certified behavior analyst and infant-toddler development specialist, Theresa Alexander Inman. Parenting on the Spectrum dives into real stories, challenges, and triumphs, offering invaluable insights and support for families on your unique journey. Let's get into the episode.
Welcome, welcome. Today, my guest is Emily Redondo. She is the author of Wife, Mother, Drunk. Welcome, Emily.
Hello, thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. And thank you for being here. Thank you for writing your book. Just the title alone just shows the transparency. And I'm sure there is healing in that, in being transparent and sharing your story.
Definitely. It also kind of I'm so used to it by this point that anything that it can offer to other people, gives it some sort of usefulness. So.
Yeah. What was the hardest part for you? Like when you decided, I'm going to write this book, share my story, tell the world, that this is my truth. How did that feel?
Well, to be honest, I had such a confusing past by the time I did get sober. The first time was in 2001, and I was 27. And this final time I've been sober since 2016. And I kind of took it on as like an investigation, sort of like what was going on back there, because I could get sober. I couldn't stay sober. And I was afraid of dying. So I kind of got to this point where I had this idea that I just wanted to figure it out. Like even just what was the order? I've been to multiple rehabs and psych hospitals, jail, detox centers, these kind of things. And I couldn't even keep them straight. And my husband couldn't either. So it was sort of like, it started as I just wanted to put it on paper. And then it turned into something a lot deeper than that. And it was incorporated with my mother's story and my grandmother's story to try to figure out, like, what are we learning that gets us to the point where alcohol is our answer to handle life. I just didn't get it. So.
Wow. So you said your mother's story. So you grew up in an alcoholic household and a household where your parents were alcoholics?
Yeah, I did. And both my parents were alcoholics. My dad was more of a kind of what you would call it a raging alcoholic. So he was very temperamental, and he was the type of alcoholic where we kind of tiptoed around, in fear, like what was going to set him off and that kind of a thing. My mom was more of an alcoholic that kind of numbed out. So I didn't really even realize that she had a problem. Of course, now as an adult, I can see it. But at the time, I sort of just thought that my dad had a problem drinking. And what I learned from that was, there's a hidden nature of this drinking that women do to kind of keep a facade up of that everything's perfect, everything's put together. I've got this under control in terms of like my household, my kids, the domestic duties, all this kind of stuff. And then inside, it's a total crisis of chaos. So I think it's also strange to me growing up in an alcoholic home where I'm convinced I'm never going to be like that. And then it turns out I wake up one day to the connection that, wow, I actually turned out a lot worse than they did.
Wow. That
And
is,
and what do I don't how do I keep this from continuing on with my own children? I've got 4 kids, and you know, I gotta figure out what else is going on besides the drinking.
yeah. And did you ever figure it out? What led to it?
I mean, I think in some respects there is a genetic predisposition
Mhm.
for addiction. Um, and it's hard to think that that might be you. So I think that that was part of it. I think that, you know, what happened in my house was more in terms of um, because we're experiencing someone drunk without even knowing that what that is.
Mm.
Um, I didn't know as a little girl why my dad was the way he was. I thought there was maybe something that I did. If I could be good, like the good girl, the good daughter, then he'd be happy. And of course that doesn't work. But no one's talking about what's really happening. No one's just saying, hey, look, dad's got a drinking problem, this. So I think there was a lot of fear and I hate using the word neglect. My mom as well was involved in this family disease because she was mainly concerned with my dad. She was in the same thing where she was afraid of him as well. So I think that sometimes when you grow up in that kind of environment, we're not developing at the same rate as standard kids because we're kind of on survival mode without realizing it. And then as I hit young adulthood, I had a series of very traumatic events happen to me that I don't know what to do with it. I mean, I'm going to do what I saw at my house and I'm just going to be really quiet about it. I'm going to keep it a secret and I'm going to pretend it didn't happen. So I do believe that some of those things, especially experiencing those, I think it would have been easier with less adversities going on
Mhm.
that really just completely stunted me in a way. So that when I became an adult with children or even in a marriage, I didn't I didn't have the skills that were necessary for adulthood. Um, and my answer, that's the thing is like what causes us to drink, and it's kind of it's not the problem, it's the answer. It was like,
Mhm.
okay, well, this is what normal women do. They have a glass of wine, you know, and I just had no control over it whatsoever. But that's not where I started. I had other addictions before alcohol. So
Yeah, and alcohol tends to be more acceptable than all the other addictions, so people tend to overlook it until it becomes a serious issue.
and I don't think that everyone who drinks excessively needs to experience like the tragic rock bottom. I think that there's a lot of information out right now that can help somebody say, "Hey, if you're asking, gosh, am I drinking too much wine? Is this like becoming something that I need instead of what I want?" That it's likely that's your answer. Like probably, because I don't think normal drinkers are asking themselves those kind of questions.
Yeah, yeah, so true. So you talked a little bit about how alcoholism affected you as a child. How did you protect your children from, just the whole issue there?
Well, so one of the things is like in my sobriety, I had, multiple years that I was sober, but my husband is also in recovery. And he's got 20 something years. My mom is sober now. So the idea of alcoholism, which I do use that term, even though it's technically not in the DSM anymore, because I think that part of the stereotype is that people don't want to identify, like I want to change the face of what that word is. The word's not going to go away. And this is what one looks like I'm your neighbor.
Yeah.
So we talked very openly about it when the kids were younger, exactly what it was. I've got some funny stories about the kids just blurting it out to strangers or teachers or whatever. And like, it's okay. And then it got a little bit more complicated when they got older. And I, I, I thought I was protecting them by, I mean, nobody ever saw me drink. I never drank in public, not at restaurants, not at home, not in a wine glass. It was all hidden. And, I thought that I was protecting them, that they didn't know. And which I just carried on the pattern from how I grew up, where I didn't come out and say it. But then it got so bad that they knew I was drunk. And they saw it as a sickness, but I know that they thought, gosh, why can't mom stop doing this? Doesn't she love us, so I passed on to my kids what was so difficult for me. And I don't think that we're in a time right now where people are really comfortable with saying, oh my God, like I was not a good mom. I was a bad mom during those times. I really caused some damage. And sometimes I describe it as there comes a time where like I'm dealing with my own trauma or not dealing. And then all of a sudden now I've become the trauma of my children. Like it flips over. And that was one of the reasons why it was so hard for me to stay sober, because it is difficult to quit drinking if you're an addict, if you're addicted. But once I hit that point where, okay, my mind is clear, I don't have anything, I'm not self-medicating anything, then I have to see what I did, what I said, and I mean, it was killing me. The pain was just so horrible. I didn't know, I mean, the shame and the guilt and just remorse. I mean, I was always praying for do-overs and like, oh my God, like, and then you get into this habit of like, I got to make it up to the kids, and that's not good parenting. And I didn't know what else to do. I know sometimes it's like, well, you could have done X, Y, and Z. And it's like, as moms, as parents, we don't have time to really take care of those things that are like big problems, not the drinking, but what's under the drinking, like why I'm drinking. And so it would just be like this knee jerk kind of thing. I'm just going to do it this once and get through this. So.
Oh, yeah, and I can see how that can be equated to, so because you said you didn't feel that you were a good mom, but how many of us out there who don't even drink don't think we're good? It's common, and I think too the drinking just it exacerbates everything, of course. So I can totally see where it continues the cycle, right? I'm not a good mom. Okay, I need to come down from this. I need to just clear my mind. So I'm going to take a drink, and then it just becomes this cycle.
Yeah. And I think that we do think, oh my gosh, like I need to be better. I need to be, this kind of a thing. And that in my situation, like I knew this wasn't like in my head, like a self-esteem or perfectionism kind of thing. This was just like, oh my God, I know I did this. I know what I'm doing and I can't stop doing it. That's Because once you start, I mean, all bets are off. Like I
Yeah.
can't moderate at all.
Yeah. I just want to share this with you because I know you were concerned, when we were in the initial stages of getting together, talked about you're not sure how this would be helpful for my audience, parenting on the spectrum. We're talking about children, parents who have children on the spectrum. And
Mm-hmm.
I found a study, I'm sure there are more. I didn't go deep into this, but there is a study that shows, and this was out of Sweden, that they showed where they identified 24,157 people with autism and 46,348 with ADHD. And and this was from 1987 to 2010. And they found that there were higher incidents of autism and ADHD in those families where drinking was an issue. And not only that, and they talked about parents who have children who were addicted to alcohol had more incidents of children. There were greater incidents of children who had autism and ADHD. And I'm thinking, if that's the case, so maybe drinking might have had something to do with that. I don't know. I'm not saying that they just talked. I'm just going about by what they said. But I'm thinking too, so even with the stressors of having a child with a diagnosis, that could also perpetuate drinking.
Oh, for sure. I can absolutely see that. Parenting is super frustrating and it's challenging. And, you know, we don't know what we're doing. Like we can read whatever is helpful, but when it comes right down to a certain moment, I don't know what I'm doing. And I tell my teenager, I'm like, look, we're both amateurs here. Like you've never been 17 and I've never parented you as a 17-year-old. So like we got to figure it out.
Mhm.
And I think the same thing is like of course we want to be good parents and we want to do the best for our kids. And sometimes we fail. I mean, now in terms of ADHD, um, there, I people will self-medicate, um, and it actually is effective, you know? So that was one of the things that was taken into account. I'm not sure how much your episodes go into this, but um, I'll be fully transparent here, where I have three daughters and a son, and I found out that I was pregnant with my son in a detox center, in a detox hospital. I had no idea I was pregnant. And, you know, that sounds so just obscene in a way. And yet I really was just looking like this. I was hiding everything.
Mm.
So it's like, that's one of the things that I'm so happy about this book that I wrote actually getting published, because most of us are just ordinary people. I don't want a business. I don't think I have the answers. I'm just a regular person. And yet that's my reality. And I actually was concerned that I had damaged my son. And I didn't stay sober when I was pregnant. And that's in the book as well. Um, and, you know, he was diagnosed in like adolescence with ADHD. And that was a challenging thing for me to handle, because I think ADHD can be like a lump for all sorts of different things. And it's kind of like that's the go to is ADHD. And I just want to say we really struggled. Like, do we give him medication? Because most are stimulants and those are addictive. And coming from two parents that have a history of that, it was a really dangerous road to take. And our pediatrician recommended that for that reason, we do put him on medication. I believe that there are studies out that show that medication actually prevents, if it's monitored and taken correctly, that it can prevent future addiction because there's not self-medicating happening. And his life improved exponentially. So, but it, you know, it was nerve-wracking in terms of like what to do. And then I got an ADHD diagnosis and it didn't make sense for me. So just because I don't know what the statistics are, but in terms of what my symptoms were, it just wasn't a match.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's not always the case.
Right.
Do you want to share a story with us?
Something from the book.
You pick some, whatever you feel, whatever moves your heart.
Here's the cover of my book.
Nice.
I need the readers.
Okay.
So this takes place at my 5th rehab. And it was about 2014 in California. I'm sorry. Are you going to be, well, yes. Okay. I had a therapist that was amazing in California. So this is me in a session with her. What dreams do you have for your life when you go home? What do you want to pursue? What's your passion? My counselor asked me later that day. The question seemed to fall out of nowhere and land with a thud at my feet. I had no idea how to answer it. I forgot I was even allowed to dream at all. I don't know, I said truthfully. Okay, well, what if I asked you, who were you before all of this? How would you answer that? She asked, and I still didn't have a good answer. All I know is I showed up here as 3 things: a wife, a mother, and a drunk, I said. I didn't know what to say next, so she asked me to search for something I was good at that I could start doing again for myself. I guess I could go back and finish graduate school. I think I'm almost finished, I thought out loud. But in the back of my mind, it already sounded like a lot of work, time, and money. Kim stared at me with intent until finally she shook her head. No, that's not it. I just don't see it in you, not right now. Something's there, but not that, she said confidently. Well, I like quilts, I said on a whim. Maybe I'll make quilts and sell them or give them away. I mean, sure, I like to make them, but the process drove me nuts, she laughed. No, nice try, but no. Okay, well, I said hesitantly, and then took a deep breath. I've always wanted to write a book. As much as I tried to hide it, the corners of my mouth began to tug upward ever so slightly. My hand reached up to cover the smile. Her demeanor changed. Her eyes lit up as she leaned in closer to tell me a secret, but then she leaned back again and clapped her hands. Emily, that's it. It's the book. That's your baby.
Wow.
And one of the things about that is that I think we kind of grieve knowing that we've had our last kid, knowing that motherhood has a bookend now. And I really was grieving about that. I was sad and having a hard time with it. And so that was 2014. And that was the first time that I decided that I was going to write a book.
That's beautiful. And when you said that, I just thought just the reaction of, the smile on your face and all of that when you found what your passion, what you were meant to do. I
Mhm.
I was just thinking of all the other people out there who don't know what. And, so think of some things. And if it brings a smile to your face, then that's it, right? Just try to, because we all have different gifts, we all have different purposes. And just finding that, it fills you, it gives you purpose, it gives you a mission, it gives you something to do with your life. And when it brings a smile to your face, that's what it is.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to kind of give yourself permission to do something that's just for you, that's has nothing to do with family, friends, you know, these big goals. It's just a little thing that kind of lights you up.
Mhm.
And I was thinking the other day, what does a woman call success? What's your idea of success as a woman? And it's hard, like, what does that mean for me in my life? What is a success where it's not attached to being a good mom, or it's only attached to me, not what I'm doing, giving? It's just for me. And I think I'm proud that I wrote a book and that it's true. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with pursuing these things that I'm doing to get the same sort of relief and experience that I think was so lost in addiction. I didn't get to do it before. Save a space for yourself. Put yourself on the list. You hear that all the time. And it's okay, yeah, that's great. Thanks. When really you can't do what's already on the list. And yeah, I do all sorts of creative things now.
Awesome. And I think we'll end right there for today. So tell us, where can people find your book? How can they reach you?
I have a website, Emily Redondo Author, that has links as well for different places where you can purchase it.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. And thank you for sharing your story with us. So
You're
moving.
welcome. And that's one of the goals of the book, is hopefully that other woman that's out there feels seen in somebody else's story.
Yeah, and that's it, right? Being
Yeah.
seen. We talk about seeing and hearing children. Parents also need to be seen and people,
Yes,
because that leads to
definitely.
other
Yeah.
issues. Yeah, and you've got to take care of you before you can take care of your child, your children.
Yeah. And sometimes we have to do it all at the same time, because the kids are going to need to be taken care of no matter what. So I don't get to say, hang on. I got to do it at the same time.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. So thank you again, ma'am.
you're
It's been a
welcome.
pleasure. And
Absolutely. It's been mine too.
thank you. And to our audience, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you same place, same time next week.